Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Ellias, and in today's video, I'll be talking about the absolute worst of the terrible, nasty, and ugly things that I read in 2021. However, I want to counter that by saying that I think this is one of the best years that I've read in terms of quality of books. I thought that this year the good outweighed the bad, but actually when I did my bookish stats and survey video, but it turns out out of the 68 books that I read in 2021, I rated a big chunk of those books 3 stars and lower. Literally in all of 2021, only half of those books I read I gave 4 stars to, and only 3 books I only gave 5 stars. But even though I gave these books really low ratings, I still, kind of enjoyed them to a degree. If these books were your favorites, or if you enjoyed the hell out of reading these books, hey, I'm pretty sure you have an opinion on books, movies, shows, clothes, food, you name it, Not everyone is going to vibe or like everything you like, So, don't get me wrong, some of these books on this list are warranted that dislike 100%. But before we get further into the video, I would like to thank today's video sponsor, Karma. So I've already worked with Karma a few times in the past. They are big supporters of this channel. Karma is essentially an app or Chrome extension that ensures you never miss a price drop or a coupon code. Like I previously said, Karma has already helped me out a few times in the past by helping me save some of that monies, saving you every little bit of monies as you shop on the good karma, on the good vibes. And fortunately, thanks to Karma, I was able to knock off a percentage off of this book with the coupon that Karma sent me over the holiday season. This book is Defy the Night by Bridget Kemmerer, and I've heard pretty good things about it. I've read from this author before, so I'm fairly familiar with her work. This is a new fantasy set in a new world, and it does sound promising, so we'll see. So Karma is really quick and easy to use. All you gotta do is click the link down in the description box below, add it to your Chrome extension, and you're pretty much all set. Whether you're shopping or browsing your favorite online store, you can save your items by clicking on the Karma button. Karma will then send you notifications via email or mobile when an item you saved goes on sale, has relevant coupons, or comes back in stock. As you can see here, you can organize all of your items into your own curated lists so you can be organized while shopping mindfully. And on the Chrome version, Karma will literally scan the internet for relevant coupons and apply them automatically at checkout. So that Chrome extension is a must. Another really cool feature about Karma is that you can earn cash back when you choose to shop with their select retail partners. So again, Karma is completely free. It's free to download, and you can check out the link down in the description box below. Thank you once again to Karma for sponsoring today's video, and now back to our regular broadcast. Alright, so with these set of books right here, we're gonna go from chaotically bad to chaotically evil, okay, in that sense, because all of the books on here are just not it, alright? Alright, so coming in at number 1, Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This one is a novella. And honestly, I was a bit hesitant to even talk about this because I was like, it's a novella, it's sort of underdeveloped. It's just part of a story, of a larger story. However, if we're just gonna rate this by itself on its own, we're only basing it on 130 pages. This book primarily follows a group of friends where they play a prank on a friend at a movie theater. However, things start to go wrong when the mannequin wakes up and starts killing people. So my overall rating for this book was 2 out of 5 stars. I thought it was just so underdeveloped with its characters and the story. I feel like we also could have benefited more from this book if it weren't for the writing. When it comes to me in books in general, writing is extremely crucial. It's important. It's basically a bridge between me, the reader, to its characters, story, and progress overall, So with this one, I just felt like it was just really rushed and disjointed. There were times in this book where I was really confused over one thing the author described, and I had to read it over again to fully comprehend it or make sense of it, because I'm just really stupid and just really bad at just connecting things in general. I think for me, also, the ending was a cop-out in general. I can't really say anything without spoilers, but if you have read this and you know the twist, then you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. Not too much to say about this one, but I do plan on reading from the author again, so we actually have quite a few 2-star reads on this list. Another one of them being The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris. I read this for the Late Night Book Club, and it was sort of presented as a thriller, The Devil Wears Prada meets Get Out. Holy hell, it sounds incredible. That sounds insane, right? I feel like whoever did the marketing on that aspect sort of needs to reevaluate or read this book on what it's actually about, because we pretty much got none of those things, if any, the barest minimum of Get Out, maybe. So I actually thought this had a really interesting and great premise, something really promising. However, not a lot happened for me in this book. Everything was really bland. The story, the writing, and the characters, especially the main character, the choices that she made in the book to do certain things and just ignore other things was just so aggravating and irritating to read. The writing of itself was okay, nothing too spectacular there, but I feel like where the story fell off was literally in the middle. There were some aspects and conversations about this book that I appreciated, going into racial diversity and women in the workforce. However, I feel like it didn't really elevate or utilize those things to its fullest potential in a book that's sort of marketed as a thriller. I would honestly describe this book more drama and a little mystery than anything else. The thriller is pretty much non-existent in here. Like, you could literally read the blurb of this book and skip all the way to the ending to find out what actually happens, and you won't miss a thing. We also have a live show for this book if you want to watch that and know all our full thoughts, but at the end of the day, I'm giving this book 2 out of 5 stars, so. Alright, so the next book on this list, The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. This one, I think, is probably my most disappointing book on this list, just because I had such high expectations for this book going in. And I feel like the trope, while utilized efficiently in this book, also didn't live up to its fullest potential as well. I think I truly believe that the slasher trope in book format, it's just, it can't be done right. It can't be done well, I think, to an extent. There are probably only like a couple slasher books that I read that I enjoyed reading, but those were ridiculous and just really stupid, but I enjoyed it, right? I think this book took itself a little too seriously. Like, there were some meta references to other slasher movies, like, you know, back in the day in the 80s that we all grew up watching, you know, all know and love. I feel like this book didn't know whether or not to stay in the lane of being too comedic or staying on the other side and taking itself pretty seriously. So I feel like this book didn't know where to structure itself. Like, it had a hard time. Like, it was confused in of itself. And to me, as a reader, that was just jarring to read, and especially with the main character that we're reading from. She is such a contradiction to herself in general. You know, our main character, she's a survivor. She even tells herself this, and of course she is one. You know, and there are precautions and steps that she takes to ensure her own safety. However, she literally puts herself in harm's way and almost gets herself killed multiple times, even with the precautions that she has in for herself. Like, I'm just like, what's the point? She would literally do stuff and say things that would make her seem so stupid that if I was watching her in a movie, I would literally be cringing at the screen in front of me and just thinking to myself, she's literally the worst character. Overall, I was just really disappointed with this book. I do think that there is potential because the strongest aspect for this book is Grady's writing. There's a strong student here, so I'm looking forward to see what his other books entail and encompass, but for now, 2 out of 5, so. Okay, so the next book that I'll be talking about is These Hollow Vows. Insert cover here. So, guess what fucking happened? The file got corrupted for no fucking reason. If that's a sign, I don't know what is, because clearly God does not want me talking about these books to you guys, because clearly they were so bad. Here I am, refilming, reliving, talking about again the other 5 worst books on this list. So, continuing where we left off, I don't know, when it comes to debut YA fantasy, especially recently, I find that most of them, if not all of them currently, are all lacking something. And I don't know what it is. It's like they're using the same tropes over and over again, repeating and reiterating. And you know, that in of itself isn't a problem. Sometimes the way that they would use these tropes are in the exact same way. Like, I get it if you're trying to utilize those tropes, but make something new, elevate it in some way with writing or character development or story progression. However, what I realized when it comes to these, like, most of these new debut fantasies is that they all are literally the same. They follow this strong heroine, this girl who's swooning over some hot guy, some hot prince, outlaw. She either has like a hidden magical ability that she doesn't really tell anybody, she doesn't know how to use. Obviously there's like some character basic progression there. At the end of the day, she's able to use her powers for good, and either one of the love interests turn out to be a bad guy, or they end up together with some complications, of course, awaiting for the next book. And that is pretty much the same basic storyline that I have been noticing in most of the fantasy books that I've been reading. So, These Hollow Vows, no difference. A key word should have already given me a clue, okay? These Hollow Vows, this hollow book, it was just honestly your basic, average YA fantasy. Literally, there's nothing new that came about it. We follow this main girl who realizes she has this hidden magical ability, talent, uses it to save her kingdom, to say the least. I get that that's very mundane and lame the way I'm summarizing or telling you the story, but it literally is mundane and lame in of itself. So she obviously has 2 love interests. One is like the golden child, and he's like good-hearted, and the other is like a bad boy, you know, and you obviously know there's like almost no chance for the good guy to win. And honestly, I like that trope, I'm here for it, but these characters, they don't develop. For me, personally, they're literally the same from page 1 all the way to the end of the book. It was the lack of substance for me, with both characters and story. And the writing was, I didn't really care for it. So at the end of the day, I didn't really hate this book, I didn't really care for it either. So it was a 2 out of 5 stars for me. So, moving on. Alright, so the next 2 out of 5 star read, for me, ultimately, vastly disappointing, was, what is it called? Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This was a fucking mistake. This book infuriated me to no end, and yet at the same time, it was still laughably enjoyable, if that makes any sense. The main character in this book got me so angry. This book mainly follows this young girl who must team up with this really super sexy hot demon from hell to avenge and sort of find out the mysterious circumstances regarding her twin sister's murder. Let me tell you that the wrong sister died. This girl, the choices that she's made and the things that she would say, she was such a contradiction to herself in general. After the death and murder of her sister, she would literally go out at nights knowing that there's a serial killer out there, trying to figure out and investigate her sister's killer, winging it Batman style. And there are so many times in this book where she literally almost killed herself and the other guy has to come and save her, like repeatedly. 60% of the book, I kid you not, is just this girl getting herself into trouble and having a hot demon trying to save her ass. One thing about this book that infuriated me to no end was how the author would maneuver and manipulate certain questions in this book. For example, there were times where the main character would voice the questions that I had regarding, the characters or the story or the mystery and whatnot in the book. And I'll be like, okay, we're on the same page here. Like, this is going somewhere. You're asking questions that make sense. However, every single fucking time that this happens, for an example, the main character would ask, hey, does the crown of hell mean anything to you? Does it give a demon power, more power than other demon lords? Either the question she was asking to the person or the character and whatnot, they would either silently, grimly, or smugly say nothing, either nod their head or shrug it off indifferently, or the main character would think to herself, I already know he's not going to answer my question. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Literally every question, almost every single question that I was asking in my head, the main character would ask, right? You would think that's a good thing, but literally all these questions are all brushed off. And I thought that was such lazy writing. And it occurred to me, so Carrie Maniscalco, this is not the first book I've read from her. The first book that I read from her, I actually DNF'd, and it was Stalking Jack the Ripper. Pretty much fucking bamboozled, because if I had known that that was the exact same author, things would have gone differently for me. But alas, unfortunately, I finished and read this book, and I have questions, so many questions. Also, there were two occurring things that this main character would always do. She would either sense the other characters, a sense of approval or admiration, like for her, this fake wannabe main character energy, not here for it. Like if she would say something or do something, she'd be like, I swear I saw a look of admiration or curiosity or whatever in his eyes, that look. And I'm just like, no, you little shit, you're just imagining things. This is just so uncanny and so funny because throughout the whole book, that is literally her only sense, okay? Every other sense, common sense, gone out the window, non-existent. And the other thing is that she would say so many things out loud without realizing it. You would be reading it as a thought, right? And then all of a sudden she would say, oh, he smirked, I must have said that out loud. The amount of times, the amount of stupid things that she has said out loud is just... Anyways, overall, bottom line, I just gotta hand it to the people who made the fan art for these last two books, because if it weren't for them, if it weren't for their service, I mean, honestly, they're doing more for these books than the books themselves. So, I mean, they're the ones who actually got me interested in reading these books in the first place, because these covers and these blurbs aren't doing it for me. These books aren't doing it for me. Alright, so I think we've finally finished talking about the 2-star reads. Moving on to the ultimate worst books now. Next up, we have Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This fucking book, y'all already fucking know. I have talked about this book and its sequel in depth already, and I'll leave the link to that video somewhere on the screen, because I will be giving you a short rehash, but at the end of the day, this book series truly got me in the worst way possible. Where to even begin with this book series? It was honestly so bad that it was actually kind of good in a way. Essentially, it's about this maiden and this bodyguard falling in love. It's two species, elves and humans, who have prejudice against each other. I'm not going to tell you if he's special or an elf or not. You can figure that out on your own. And that is essentially the entire series. And she finds out that her birthright isn't as what she thought it was. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. There were so many things that went wrong for me in this book series. Granted, I only read 2 of the books. I plowed through and read the first 2 books, and I think to me that's like a huge feat in of itself already. So I'm just gonna tell you some of the things that I found really wrong with this book series. First of all, please let me know down in the comments below if you've eaten pussy before and if it tastes anything like honeydew. Just gonna let that sink in for now. Because every single time the main character, the hot guy, would go down on the maiden, Poppy, he would be like, oh babe, fuck, you taste like honeydew. And I'm over here like, I don't think pussy tastes like fruit. But I could be totally fucking wrong, and it totally could, because I've never eaten or tasted pussy. Please let me know down in the comments below if you have, and it actually is accurate. There you go. This book has entirely ruined honeydew for me. Like, honestly, the majority with these books, literally nothing happens. Nothing. In the second book, it's like almost like what, 600 pages? 75% of that book is literally just traveling. Traveling. Nothing happens in that sequel until like the last 10% of that book, where there was like some angst, some twisty moments, and then bam, a cliffhanger. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is such a fucking cop-out. The fact that these books have over a 4.5 rating on Goodreads is just astounding to me, because I was like, I mean, the first book actually won a Goodreads Choice Award for romance. Essentially, the only character trait that the main girl has, Poppy, is being so damn unexpected. I cannot count the amount of times that Hawk, the main guy, has said to this girl, damn babe, you're so unexpected. So damn unexpected. And I was like, okay, we get it. She's not like other girls. She's special. She's unique. Main character vibes here. And the other guy's main character trait, what the girl noticed about him the most is the way he would smell. The way he would smell like sandalwood, which is a very staple YA boy smell, or, you know, the pine forest, or, you know, some spice. So yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about these books. I don't really have anything new to say about these books other than the fact that they were so fucking bad, and book Twitter did me so dirty. The ratio of like good to bad books I found through book Twitter and book talk are like 1 to 5. So if you're looking to read a book about horny, angsty teenagers, literally, I don't even think they're teenagers, they're literally adults, like 18 and like 20 something, just pining over each other and smelling of sandalwood, pine trees, and spice, and finding that the character is so damn unexpected, and over what, 500 pages? This is the book series for you. Okay, finally, we have come to the last 2 worst books that are on this list. Second to last is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. With this one, I've actually read the author's first book. I actually thought the plot twist was okay. I thought it was fairly decent, because coming off of the author's first debut book, I sort of had expectations going forward for this one, because 1, it sounded promising. 2, after the plot twist of the first one, I was expecting a little bit more. I personally thought the twist in the first thriller was actually pretty good. Anyways, for The Maidens, I just thought this book was so fucking ridiculous. It has literally one of the dumbest twists I've ever read in any book. So when you're reading like a thriller, right, you think of all these like different wild scenarios in your mind. And you're like, okay, fuck, like, yeah, that could never happen. You know, like one of those crazy wild theories or scenarios in your head where you're just like thinking about and you're just like, yeah, that could never happen. But you can definitely bet that I was proved wrong with this one. The twist in this one was so like far-fetched and left field. I feel like the author picked the worst twist to come about with this book, because like there are too many plot holes for me to consider that this was an actual real twist. And the main character, oh lordy, the main character. So this girl thinks she's the actual shit because she would go around and investigate these things in details and catch things that obviously the investigators couldn't get or obtain, you know, vital information that they seemed to miss during the first time. However, not so for our main character. So this girl is a psychotherapist, and she is investigating the murder of her niece's friend at the school that she went to. And so she's an alumni. However, with this like mentality or whatnot, she would literally go into the school brazenly, just like doing her own thing, and nobody seems to bat an eye. Nobody conveniently is there to stop her. This whole school, this famous school, is like empty on so many levels. You know, Cambridge University, one would think that it's populated and full of like teachers and staff and students, but yet every single time that this character investigates like a mystery, it's like seemingly empty, no one is there, like nobody ever sees this fucking girl, and it's just so convenient. She has the power of luck on her side. Also, another thing that made me laugh about this book is that there's this professor in here who's super charismatic. He's super hot and super young, and he has a group of girls following him around, and they dub themselves as the Maidens. Seriously, we're in 2021, okay? I would seriously doubt that if a following group of girls would follow a professor around a university calling themselves the Maidens, I'm pretty sure that shit wouldn't fly. I was just laughing at that when like this professor, he's like super like enthusiastic, you know, he has a really good charisma about him, you know, bad vibes, okay? Just total bad vibes. And yet every single female character is just enamored with him. And I don't understand or get why. The male characters in this book just really frustrated me. They were just stupid, creepy, like made no sense, and the female characters in this book weren't any better off. So like these college girls, they would treat each other like as if they were like in high school, like, you know, Mean Girl style. And I was like, this is so juvenile. I don't know, maybe it's like a UK thing. I don't know, please let me know down in the comments below if that is true or not, because I would expect more, especially from a prestigious university like in Cambridge. Like nobody gives a shit, okay? Nobody gives a shit about what you wear, your hairstyle, your color, what you look like, okay? Like this isn't high school or middle school. This is like an elite, prestigious university where things are held at a high regard. And yet these characters do not hold themselves at any regard whatsoever. So at the end of the day, just giving this book 1 out of 5. I thought this was so terrible, so bad, And the twist at the end just confounded me to no end. I was like shocked. Like I was more shocked at my revelation at this twist than the actual twist itself. But yeah, just leaving it at that. This is like the worst thriller, if not the worst book I've ever read. So the last and final book on this list, and I'm pretty sure you already know what it is, but this is Survive the Night by Riley Sager. So here's the thing with Riley Sager. Every single one of his books I've read and I've enjoyed. I've given them 4 stars or more, every single one. This is the first book from him that I've given 1 star. Like, I don't even want to give it 1 star, a 0.5 if you will. Will I ever read any more books from this author again? Absolutely. I absolutely love his thrillers, except for this one. This one was just all amounts of ridiculous and stupidity. I feel like the whole twist itself was just an entire cop-out. Like, I feel like we deserved so much better. However, I did think that the premise itself was really promising, was really interesting and unique, you know? Set in the 90s, and we follow this young college student who is hitching a ride with this random stranger after the murder of her best friend, you know, wanting to leave the college town for the holidays. However, there were so many things that went wrong for me with this one. First of all, why would you go off with a random stranger literally after the death and murder of your best friend at the hands of a serial killer, knowing that there's a serial killer out there? She literally refuses to wait for any friends for her boyfriend, but instead wanting a head start and just wanting to leave college campus. The main character, Charlie herself, she's like presented as the final girl, but I just already know if she was plucked from here and placed in any single horror slasher movie, she would literally be one of the first characters to get off, to go, to get killed, okay? We have Charlie, who is in this car with this random stranger. And at this point, I will be talking spoilers because I need to. So if you have made it this far and you still want to read this book, by all means, go do so. You might enjoy it way more than I did. So bye-bye. But anyways, this random stranger, Charlie is immensely creeped out by. Like, the things that he would say, the things that he would do, she suspecting that he is our serial killer. I mean, spoiler alert, he's not. Common logic is just non-existent in this world, especially with our main girl, Charlie. And there were a few times in this book where Charlie could have escaped, could have gotten away, so many times in this book. However, our main character, Charlie, in the spur of the moment, has made the choice in the name of feminism to help all the other girlies out there and to stop and put an end to this killer once and for all. Literally, she gives herself like this speech, this pep talk in the bathroom, and she's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna stop him. He will never do this or hurt anyone ever again. So I was not put off by the way she said it. I was just put off with the choices that she made, because I was like, you're so fucking dumb. Because how are you going to stop this guy? Like, literally, she's like, this guy outweighs me. He's super muscular. He's big. I was just like, how? Like, you're not gonna call for help? You're not gonna tell anybody? You're not gonna escape? Like, she literally puts herself in harm's way for all the other girlies. Yes, it would have worked in different circumstances and different aspects, and I've read books where female characters have made this choice before, but it works. However, in this case, the author really tried a feminist angle, and it just did not work for me. Usually when it comes to male authors trying to incorporate feminism in their books, I'm just like, first of all, do you even know what feminism is? And second of all, it just does not work as they intend to. So Charlie goes back, and to her surprise, he's obviously not the serial killer, but it turns out to be her actual boyfriend. And get this though, the guy that she initially thought who was a serial killer, the guy that she was so creeped out by and scared of, she goes on a date with him literally after she gets out of the hospital, and they end up getting married. I mean, I don't know, it's giving me Stockholm Syndrome vibes for me. So, I mean, this character, Charlie, she's just on white girl shit. You know, I'm just like, literally the way no person of color would ever be in your situation, because we're just smarter, okay? So anyways, it turns out that the big plot twist, the big twist of them all, is that what we're reading from is actually from a movie based on the events that surrounded Charlie with his circumstances. And so obviously some things were changed, because according to Charlie, this didn't happen or this didn't happen. Like, this book made it grander than it actually was. So I was just like, so you're telling me that we're reading from the POV of a movie, and yet it was still total shit, but some of these events didn't even happen for our main character. So if we had actually read those events that actually happened with this main character, it would have been even more worse than what we actually got with this book. I just couldn't. At the end of the day, I was just so flabbergasted and confounded by everything that happened and went on with this book, the character choices that were made, the things that were said, the twist overall. It was just a big, hard no for me. So, oh, another thing that I wanted to bring up that this book had was Charlie's illness. I don't even want to call it an illness, but it's this thing that she had where she would literally black out and movies would play in her mind. And so she couldn't tell what was real or not, giving us the fucking trope of the unreliable narrator, and I just hated how it was done. Never in her life has she ever had any symptoms of anything. After the death of her parents, she would watch all these fucking movies with her grandmother, and soon after that, every single time she would find herself in a pickle, her brain would like shut off and reset, and a movie would play in her mind instead, like a false pretense of her reality. This thing was never fully explained. It doesn't really get into too much detail aside from the fact that this literally gives her the title of an unreliable narrator. And so, at the end of the day, even though Riley Sager has written some of the best thrillers I've ever read, this is absolutely one of the worst. Alright folks, and there you have it, all the worst books that I read in 2021. Please let me know down in the comments below if you have read this, if you had actually different opinions from me, if you actually loved any of these books, and what other books that made it to your worst books of 2021. Anyways, thank you so much for watching guys, and I will see you all soon with a new video. I feel like I found, I feel like I found a good, I feel like I read, I feel like the good outweighed, I feel like the good outweighed the bad. I did, I thought, I thought this, I did think that this year outweighed, I think that this, um, so, I mean, but I mean, but I mean, but I mean, actuality, but I mean, honestly, but I mean, honestly, but I mean, honestly, you know, a disappointing, but, but you know, even though I gave these books really, but even though, I, karma has already, like I said, karma, you know, staying on the dark side, you know, taking itself very extreme, like taking itself very seriously, extremely, like or staying, or staying on the other side, taking itself very seriously, extremely, or staying on the other side, taking itself extremely good, or taking itself pretty, pretty, or staying